Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's had a great Memorial Week. I cannot believe it is already Saturday again. In fact, I almost missed it. This week really had me messed up. Giving, well, every day's practically a Monday for me. There is no payday, there's no Friday, and they all just seem to run together. But adding in a 3 day weekend, combining it with a family function that I just about slept through. I worked all weekend last Saturday, cutting up a big old 40 some odd foot hardwood, clearing it out of the way that had fallen during the hurricane, and then did the live. And then Sunday, a big family gathering that I almost slept, pretty much just slept through the entire thing. But I needed it, and it was enjoyable just to sit there in the nice weather and listen to everybody have fun and nod off. Uh, and then I don't even know, that was Sunday, and I don't even remember what days of the week I did what. Uh, we had a really productive Patreon live stream. I've started trying to do at least once a week, going live here in this studio and inviting any of the patrons to come in and actually chat and solve problems and work out issues, create designs requested, whatever needed to be done. Some of those have gone on for 5 hours. This week, I think, was two, maybe 3, maybe 2 hours, or 2.5, I think. Then I had some orders to fill. Had several of you have purchased the cedar 5x7 planks, and I've sold out of. No, I've got one order of the basswood planks left. I got one order of those left. I got to get more of those. Those are really nice. But I ended up having to process. One day I processed a whole bunch of cedar pickets and created a whole bunch more cedar plaques. That was a whole nother day. But and then I spent 2 days making this, and most of it was finish work, painting and prepping and painting, and then putting the video together yesterday that I released yesterday, showing the assembly process for that. Well, I got a phone call last night. They asked me, how things are going, what was, just checking in on me, seeing how things were progressing. And I said, well, yes, we were talking. I said, yeah, I don't know what all I got to get. I said, I'm going to try and work on the floor tomorrow and try to do this. And I said, what day is this? Day Tuesday or Wednesday? He said, today's Friday, brother. It's not Tuesday or Wednesday. It's Friday. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm accustomed to losing a day, but to lose 2 days or I was, oh, man. So I was not even remotely thinking about doing a live stream in 6 hours after that phone call. So I got to racking my brain. I said, well, I've had multiple requests, emails about not after I dropped this video Friday for the assembly process. I didn't get a lot of questions about how to do it, but a lot of people, I say a lot. I had about 5 or 6 emails that asked me about the frame, the artwork, the rope frame that I've got around the design. They're like, man, where'd you get that? How did you do that? Where'd you come up with that? Because I did not discuss that in the assembly video. I didn't discuss any of the artwork. So I said, you know what? I've got some really cool tricks that I do to create these frames. I'll address those emails in today's live stream. So that's what we're going to talk about. I want to look and see who all's here. We got some low numbers. This time slot is always low numbers, and especially on a day like today. I don't know how weather is in your neighborhood, but right now we've had a week of rain. It's finally let up. In fact, I'm probably going to go out and try to cut some of the grass after I end this live stream. Let's see. Hello everybody. I see Sharon's made a couple of comments here about we did work on a problem trying to figure out how to get the cribbage holes to follow a path on a cribbage board. And I did look at your email, Miss Sharon. But you made a whole lot more progress than we made, but it still doesn't do what you wanted to do, or at least what we were trying to do. It will not bend those, and I'll show you after we do the frames and stuff I want to do. But you made a whole lot more progress, or got a whole lot closer than anything that me or Chris was able to come up with. What's with the new icons? Are you asking people in chat, or are you talking about my new? I've changed up my thumbnails, if that's what you're referring to. Are you talking? I'm actually trying to improve my my thumbnails for Hobo with Wood and a few other things, taking some advice from the Chat GPT, the AI, and trying to figure out ways I can increase my awareness on the internet. And one of the few things it's talking about was optimizing my thumbnails. I'm like, okay, how do I do that? But I don't know if you're referring to that, Kevin, or are you talking about icons? You're talking about what people seeing in chat, or something that I'm doing here? Let's see here. Looking for questions and comments where I get. Steve, you're entitled to losing days and falling asleep. Trying to get down here and get caught up to where everybody's at. That's one thing I hate. The crowns in chat. Okay, I don't even see the crowns in chat. That might be something only you guys are seeing in the chat besides the names. Yeah, I don't see any of that stuff. That must be something that only you guys are able to see. Da, 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 da. And yeah, I see you guys were talking about some of the issues that were in the signs. I think I figured out how some of that got messed up, because one of those pieces I designed entirely from scratch. Someone had sent a request to the Lightburn forum about, hey, how what's going on here, and they attributed it that the inverting of some of the text was a bug from way back in Lightburn history, and that they have since resolved, and they're like, but it's still kind of floating around out there. Well, some of those pieces of artwork were pieces that I had received, and I'm like, okay, well, they need to be improved upon. And I cleaned them up, straightened them out. But when I opened them and brought them into Lightburn, they were brought in from a previous version of Lightburn. So that bug was in there. And as long as I continued to work on that layer, even if I completely saved all the original bug piece, and then I started doing another piece, well, all that bug in those layers transferred into that new piece. So until I hit new and started it from afresh, those bugs were underlying or could be part of that artwork. So I think that's how it got there. But I understand that everybody got it figured out. It was real simple to fix and correct. So I'm glad everybody got it straightened out. All right. Watched the assembly video, thought it was great. Well, thank you. All right. So Yeah. It wasn't. It wasn't just an origin issue because the entire image wasn't flipped. It was only the text that was getting flipped. So it was really weird because if it was a bug about that entire layer and it was flipping the whole image because of an origin issue, that easy to understand. But part of the image would be fine, and then and in some cases, only part of the text would get inverted, not even all of the text. It was really strange, and not everybody experienced it. Only some people did. But it was Lightburn says, yeah, and hey, we got a celebrity in the house. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Uh, so the what I'm going to work on, and we're not going to go over because I went over this well enough in yesterday's video. If you haven't seen the assembly process, that's 8 layers, and there's a lot of detail going on with the engraving. The Overlord monument, I actually there's 3 different engraving tiers on that because the bottom ones are just barely hit with the laser, just enough to discolor the grain in the wood, and it gives it kind of a textured, almost a marble like or granite like look on the piece. But the emails I received were about how did I get that rope frame, and I'm going to show you a couple of really neat tricks. Creating frames is really, really easy in Lightburn. And if you're using a square design or circular design, which is a lot of circular artwork, frames are a piece of cake. Can't ask for anything simpler because all you're doing is a circular array and, do maybe a couple offsets or something, and you get a really nice frame, quick and easy. The problem is whenever you start getting into irregular shapes or even rectangles. You can't use the circular array with rectangles. You can do copy along path, but that even takes it doesn't on copy along path has its own issues when you're trying to do frames. I will use it, but I will not use it to do the entire piece. What I'm looking for when I do my frames is symmetry. I want to have, when somebody picks it up and looks at it, they're like, okay, well, the spacing across these stars is the exact same as down here and there and there. And then if there's supposed to be a star in each corner, then they all line up. Everything's right. And that's where you have a problem with copy along path. That doesn't always work out. So let's jump over here to Lightburn. I'm going to mark this spot in the comments so I know where. Smart Alex says, I have the inverted image issue when I don't have the same text that was used in the project. And that shouldn't be an issue because Lightburn is supposed to, and that was Smart Alex that said that. Smart Alex. And I do love that name. I've told you that before. Lightburn is supposed to, if you don't have that font, Lightburn is supposed to acknowledge, okay, if you don't have the font, we're going to convert it to a path. And the fact that it's being converted to a path, it should be less of an issue when bringing it in. But when it inverts that, like I said, Lightburn acknowledged that there was an issue way back when, but apparently they fixed it. But like I said, if there was some old artwork out there that had that bug in it, I guess you can still bring it into a new and later version of Lightburn. Fortunately, it doesn't corrupt everything. It's just that one piece of artwork has got some corruption to it. All right. Didn't mean to hit that again. I meant to hit enter. Marking my spot in the conversation. And let's jump over to Lightburn. All right. So like I said, if you were going to do a frame, you had a piece of artwork, a design, and you were going to put a circular frame around it. Let's put that on toolpath. And you wanted to do hearts around this thing. And we'll put it on a line for right now. Shrink it down. And I'm going to put that in the top center right there. And then if I wanted to put a little frame of hearts around there, I can select the heart, hold shift, select the circle, and then do the circular array and tell it how many copies I want it to make. And if I use right there, this rotate objects copy, if it's not turned on, it'll keep the hearts in the same orientation. And if you wanted to put 12 copies in there, like the hours of a clock, you tell it 12 copies, or you can just keep filling up the copies as you need until you kind of fill up a framework. And then if you wanted them rotated around it, just go back and rotate them. So I'm going to go to there. That looks pretty good. You know what? To go 24. That's good. And say, okay, all right, well, that was easy. I got that. And I'm going to go ahead and group the objects and say, okay. And now let's go ahead and do an outward offset. And let's do a little smaller because I want them connected. And I like, and you notice how I'm able to scroll around and move this while I'm in the circular or the offset tool. There are a lot of menus that allow you to do, or a lot of tools that will allow you to do that, but there's a lot that won't. And we'll see that here in a minute. But I can zoom in and see where these begin to overlap. So let's go to 3.3, not quite 3.5. So I'm going to go 3.5. All right, there they've started to overlap and lock up. And why is that important? Well, it's not really so much important as it is if, depending on how you have, when you go to do your engraving, if you're doing fill shapes individually, instead of filling groups or doing layers, if you're using fill shapes individually for whatever reason, if that offset were not interlocking and connecting with each other, then each one of those is a separate shape, and your laser is going to do one, the other one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So by interlocking that, when you're doing the frame like that, it can save a lot of movement with your laser. So we're going to go back there, and that interlocking looks good. I don't want to delete my original. Say okay. And then if I put all of that, less the toolpath on a black layer, you know, I've just created a little heart frame that I can put in there. And that's simple and easy with the circle. And even if you're doing a perfect square, and we put that on a toolpath, and this time let's grab the star and put the star in the top center right there. And let's make it a little smaller. And holding shift, select the square, and we do the circular array. Circular array, even though we're working on a square, you get a circle like that. That don't work. So if you come up there and you say, I want to do copy along path, arrange, copy along path. Now you can start to get that to move around the circle or the square. And if you do, there you get everything positioned equal spaces apart from each. The distance looks good, and you can play with different variations and orientations of it, and it will stay pretty symmetrical like that because all four sides are equal. So even though these are not in the perfect corner, none of those are in the perfect corner. It's still symmetrical. It works. And you can keep increasing it to where you get them all in the corner. That works. And that's, with circles and squares, you can keep your symmetry pretty easy. But when you start using irregular shapes, the arrays don't work so great, and you have to use other tricks to make it happen. So I'm going to look at showing you how I did these. Here is a rectangular shape with a star border, and none of them are in the same orientation. They're all flipped around and everywhere, but this thing is still symmetrical. The spacing between the stars is all even. And then this one I really like. I like the effect of this, where you've got the larger circles that it dives down to the small ones, and small ones back up to the big ones, and then, you know, vice versa. So you got a mirror image here where they're reducing in size. And then I did the same thing here with the star, to where they get small and then larger as they come in, and back smaller as it goes out again. So that a neat, you know, effect. And these are not hard to do. The trick to doing your design work, especially if you're really concerned about symmetry, don't try to design the whole thing. You don't need to design the whole thing. It's better if you don't design the whole thing. Design half of it. Design half of it and then flip it. And now those two sides are going to be perfectly symmetrical. So it's a lot less work than trying to design the whole thing. And you can really get creative with the frames and stuff. So let's look first at this rectangle with the star on it and how I did that. And let's grab this one and move it out the way. And I don't know if I got them grouped. Yeah, I got it grouped. All right. Looking to see if there's any comments I need to address before I jump into that. Where's my mark? There it is. And if anybody is new here to the stream, look, from what I'm seeing, it's a lot of the regulars. Just pay attention to the bottom there. If you really want me to answer a question, put 3 question marks in front of your question and then your question. And if you want to correct me or bring my attention to something, 3 exclamation points and then your comment. And I welcome input. I love to hear other people's methods and ideas, because I learn from you guys sometimes as much as I share and learn with you. You learn from me. So let's see, just checking everything for any other comments or questions, and then I'll jump in. All right. Yeah, like there. Larry says, can you do the same with initials like LDM? Yeah, you can do that if you were to group them or create them, that text, and then you just selected that group of text and move it around. Depending on what you wanted to do with it, it'll probably eventually get at some point turned from a text to a shape or a path, and it will no longer be editable. You might could actually even do it and leave it as a text. You know, Larry, that's actually if you wanted to, I bet you this might be something I want to investigate or look into. I've talked about using variable text before. It might be possible to actually create a frame pattern and or design, use the variable text input for the initials, save that design, and then be able to go in and apply. Say if you wanted to create the same frame with half a dozen or more, you had a whole bunch of different initials that you wanted to do, you could have it just bring that variable text in and apply that to it. That might be actually kind of cool, as long as you could keep that in the text format. That's something to look at. All right. All right. Marking this spot, and then we're going to go make the first design here. So I'm going to do this framework right here. And I'm doing this when I create the frames. Typically it's for either a piece that I'm already have designed or working on, or I want to design a piece for a given piece of wood, like my 5x7 plaques. So I need to know where that's going to be positioned on the plaque and keep it within and the right dimensions. And then so I've got I know what my allowable space is to actually do my artwork in. So that's what I start with. What are my parameters? So I'm going to draw out a rectangle, and I'm going to tell it it's 5 by 7 inches. So 7 by 5, and I'm going to do it landscape mode. But of that, I've got a 1/4 inch round over on that. So I'm going to come in here. Let's put that on a tool path. It don't need to be on a cut path. I'm first going to do an offset inwards of a 1/4 inch. And that takes care of my 1/4 inch round over on my plaque. So now that is the edge of my engraving area. So if now I've got that, I'm going to come in and say, if I want this frame of these stars to be about a total area of 10 millimeters, then I need to come in now and do another offset of, let's go to millimeter. And I wish there was a button right here that you could toggle back and forth between millimeters, metric and imperial, because I work in both constantly. So I got to go back out and now come back in here, and I want to do 10 millimeter offset inward and say, okay. So I want my framework to, or design to be inside those two. So if that's 10 millimeters, I'm actually going to come back over here and I'm going to do another offset of only 5 mil. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this one and this one, put it on T1 and group it. And so I want my frame design work to be between the T1 toolpaths, and the center of that is that T2 toolpath. This one out here is the outer perimeter of the actual physical piece. So now my artwork, if I was doing one of my signs or one of my plaques, what do we got here? That one's already got a piece on it. So let's come up here and get rid of all of that for a second. Ungroup it. Get rid of that. So if this was the actual plaque that I was engraving, it would go in the middle of, come on, let me get you in the middle of that. There. Did it move? Bullseye. Yep. All right. So now I'd want to put a frame around here. So I'd use this T2 blue toolpath as my origin, or how I start to do these stars up here. So just to keep things clean, I'm going to get rid of that. I wanted to show you, the idea behind that. And look at the edit the CSV file, not the result, should work with keeping it in the format. Edit the CSV file, not the result, should work with keeping in the format. Yeah, it should. As long as everything's kept in text and you don't do anything to convert the text to a path. That's what I was initially thinking. All right, let me grab a star. And you know what? If you don't have, like I got these accents, I've got all these different accents over here and grabbing, I've got a star and a heart, but you might not have that. So what I'm trying to do in this live stream is show you how you can do all this in Lightburn without having to go grab anything from internet or whatever. So if you don't already have a star, creating a star in Lightburn is one of the simplest things you can do. And I'm going to try and show you step by step how to create that without going, well, I did this before I went live and it didn't take me but a couple of seconds to do that. I'm going to show you how to do all of it. So grab you over here with your polygon tool, hold shift and draw out a perfect polygon. And you can either right click and go to show properties, or shape properties down here is actually the same thing. If you don't have shape properties open in yours, you go to Windows and click on that shape properties to open it up, and you can park it over here. But it may be something you don't use a lot. Maybe you didn't know it was there. Maybe you should open it because you can use it a whole lot more. But you right click and show properties, and there it is, shape properties. I want to go from 6 sides to 5 sides. So I can do that 5-sided there. But I want to show you another trick. I'm going to Control Z, undo that. Well, Control Z, undo. It's not letting me undo. Let's go back. There we go. Let's see. Right there. If you've got a 6-sided hexagon, polygon, let's draw it out from the beginning, whatever it is. Polygon tool, hold shift and control and draw out a perfect sided piece. And that is a 6-sided piece. And you won't say, I want a triangle. I want a 3-sided piece. All you've got to do is select, didn't want to do that. One of my selector tool, dummy, delete that. Select that, hold the control button and get this purple dot. That purple dot is normally associated with the curvature of a line or bend a line. But when you're in the polygon tool, if you hold control and get that purple dot to pop up, you can grab that purple dot and start rolling down, and you increase your number of sides, roll up, and you decrease your number of sides until there's a triangle. But I actually want a pentagon. There it is. So you can, there's always another way. And I'll try to show you 1 or 2 ways without getting squirrel distracted too much. So there's my 5-sided pentagon. Now I'm going to flip that so I get my point up top. So I'm going to mirror that up. There we go. And now I'm going to use my pencil tool. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start, and I'll put it in a black layer. I didn't want to do that. That's one thing I know. Black layer, pencil tool. And I'm going to come to right here in this corner of the pentagon. I'm going to start drawing a line, and I'm going to connect all 5 points of the pentagon. And once you get it to a closed shape, if you're in fill mode, it'll do that to you. And right click to stop drawing. Now I'm going to delete the pentagon. I'm going to select the star, and I'm going to go to the offset tool, and I'm going to do a 0 offset and delete the original. And that gives you a solid piece. And if you put it in line mode, you've got just a simple star. And then once you've done that once, select it, create you an accidents library or whatever you want to call it, and then save that, import graphic from project, call it what you want to, and then put it over there. And you'll never have to create that pentagon again. You'll never have to draw a star again. If you're not using stars in your design work and artwork, you might be missing out, because I use it all the time. And so I'm not going to do that pentagon every time I need one. Oh, look at Chris bragging. Okay, Chris is already using version 2. Well, I think he's using 1.7, but he has used version 2. And he says version 2 is going to be even easier because there's going to be an actual shapes menu and it'll have a star in it. That's actually kind of cool. A lot of the software, design software, has that, where you're not just drawing out a polygon. You say, I want an octagon, I want a star, I want this or what. So you actually just pulling in the shape itself. That's actually cool. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of things about 2 I'm going to enjoy, but there's going to be a few things that I'm resistant to change, and there's going to be a lot of changes in 2. So now that you've got your star, I need to size this so it will fit up here in this area. So this was a total of 10 millimeters. So if my aspect ratio is locked and my star is not perfectly shaped, it's not going to have this equal height and width. So your star is tall, or it has a larger width than it does height. So I'm going to, and the number here that I've got to worry about is this would be the height. It's 10 millimeters. So I'm going to come over here and tell that 10 mil. And once I reduce that to 10 mil, if I bring it up here and put it in the middle, wherever there, well, that's going to the edge of my engrave area in both directions. And I don't want to quite do that. If I want to, contain it within that area, I need to make it smaller than that. And if I'm going to do any offsets and areas around it, then it needs to be considerably smaller than that. So if I want my frame area to be no larger in its total sum than 10 mil, I want to leave a 3 mil gap here and here. Then I'm going to reduce that height by another 6 mil. So I'm going to bring that down to 4. So there is my starting size of my star. And if I bring that over here to the corner, and I'm going to show you the problem that I have with, well, there's a couple of issues here. In fact, because there are a couple of issues, I'm going to make this bigger so it's easier to see. We're going to take this back up to 8 for right now. I would not make my stars this big, but I want to show you the problem. If I start with that star, and I'm zooming out so you can see this entire piece, and I want them to be on this path. So I've selected my star, held shift, and select this T2 toolpath. And if I try to use the circular array, it's going to rotate objects from the use the last selected object center position. If I've got that turned on, it starts putting it in a circle around the center of the last shape I picked, which was that T2 toolpath. So it's going around in a circle. If I tell it don't do that, well, it does some other funky stuff. We don't want that either. So if I use the grid, or not the grid array, if I use the copy along path, arrange and copy along path, I've got 4 selected, but instead of going to the 4 corners, it's going into some strange places because it's doing equal space between them. And I can tell it what the space should be between them, but because it's longer on the X than it is the Y, you're not going to get that to be symmetrical. So as you increase that, in fact, let's just jump it up to 40 and see. All right. So there at 40, I've got a star in this corner and a star in this corner, but nothing over here and over here. And as I continue to try my best to look and see, well, there's one and there's one, but nothing down here and down here. So copy along path does not give you a very quick and easy symmetrical result when you're trying to do that. Well, I don't need to have it symmetrical on all 4 corners. And if I'm going to do something funky with where I've got those stars all discombobulated, then it's not that critical that they be perfectly symmetrical in the corners, but if they're just close. So if I look here at this arrangement here, and I'm going to look for a star in close to these 3 corners, this one, and the start. Like right there, that's close. That's right on. That looks like it's right on, and that one's really, really close. If that's close, I'm going to say I'm okay. It's not grouping anything. So those are copied along path, but I don't want these. I'm going to delete it, and I don't want those. I'm going to delete it. Now, if I want to get this one right on the corner, if I do want to make them, if in fact, let's do this to where I'm not going to do all the discombobulation. I want to keep these tight and in formation. So I'll grab this one and pop it and on the, and because the star is not a symmetrical shape, if I tell that to go to that corner, hold shift, that works. So I put that center of that star right on that corner. Now that's on the center, that's on the center. And if I select every one of these top pieces, those top stars, and come up here to the, where is you? Oh, up here. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. All the way up here to the top. I want to use this one right here. It says distribute objects horizontally with even space between them. And so if I click, since I selected all of those and I've got the two endpoints, they're anchored. So now it's going to move every star in between the two endpoints and distribute those evenly. And you're going to see them move ever so slightly. You'll see this one move more than this one because this one's further away from over here. So click distribute horizontally, with even spaces. Now those are perfect. I'll come down here to this star and it's actually right on the corner. And I've already put that one on the corner. So now I can select all of these. I'm going to tell them to go to their centers. There they are. And then I'm going to tell them to distribute with even spaces between them vertically. This one here. And that puts those like that. Now I can actually hold my shift key, select all of these, and group everything. And now that they're grouped, I'm going to mirror them up and down. I didn't duplicate them. Let's undo that. I'm going to duplicate them with Control D, duplicate. Now that they're duplicated, now I'll flip them. And then it's horizontal. Now I'm going to flip them vertical. Now that's put those in the right spot. But you got these two overlapping here. And I just noticed they're not, but actually, you know what? This is going to be easy to fix. So now that I've got those positioned correctly, I'm going to ungroup those so that I can come up here and grab this one random star, get rid of it, come down here and get this duplicate right here. Now these, they're upside down in relation to the one on the end. Well, if I just mirror it, that flips those up correctly. These here, same thing, done. And now I created a perfect symmetrical piece and only had to design two of the lines to do that. So that is a basic star or a star frame around a rectangle. And I started with the rectangle first because it's the simplest of the irregular shapes. And I love seeing all the numbers populate. And if there are any new folks in the stream and you're seeing these numbers like Richard's popped up a 3, Francis popped up a 3, I ask folks that are watching the stream, and if they learn something new, to pop in a number 1. If they learn something new again, pop in a number 2. The third time they learn something, pop in a 3. So Richard and Francis both have learned 3 new things watching this stream. The reason I asked for that is it lets me know that you are active and involved in watching the stream and you're getting something from it. So I know you're not behind your TV screen watching golf asleep. It also helps with the YouTube analytics showing the engagement in the video. So if you're new, that's what that's about. And I love seeing, and especially from some of the folks that's been doing this for a while, I love seeing these big numbers. Love it, love it, love it. All right, now, so I just created that piece with those were just basic stars. And if you wanted to do, just those engraving, if I selected all that and then just come up here and deselect all of my pieces and put those on the black layer, you can engrave them just like that. And you'd have a symmetrical, balanced star border. Let's say you want to do something a little bit more than that. Say you wanted to, let's look at just doing an offset on all of those outward. And let's do a millimeter. Now we're starting to get, in fact, if we go above this up here on the piece I'm designing, I'm going to be getting into that routed area of my piece. So that wouldn't work. And you could grab everything and then shrink it down. Now that you've got everything symmetrical, but that creates its own issues when you do that. Because when you shrink it down, sometimes you create more gaps in one direction than you do the other. And then if you have to start stretching it out lengthwise to make up for that, now you're starting to elongate your shapes. So I try not to do that. I try to make sure I'm designing on the path that I need it to be on from the beginning, so I don't have to start stretching and pulling and elongating pieces if I want to keep the symmetry. So that wouldn't work being that big. 0.5. And then using the corners on this offset, it's pushing it over. But what if I did a rounded? Look at there. That pulls it inside there, and that works. And then I can get by with doing that. All right. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Delete. Delete. And those are all grouped. So let's ungroup them. And delete. So we're back to our basic star. And because of what you've seen just a second ago, once I start doing offsets, that's going to be way too big. And this is 10 mil. If I want to leave a 3 millimeter buffer around the perimeter, I need to do that on both sides. I need to have this at 4 mil. So I'm going to put the height at 4 mil. All right. So now I've got room to start expanding and doing different offsets and stuff. But if I come over here and I start doing the same thing, I do my copy along path. And what do I like to say? In fact, I even said it in the description of this video. There's always another way. Always another way. So instead of doing copy along path this time, I'm going to do take it from a different approach and show you how I can use the grid array to accomplish something similar. So it depends on how your brain works, right brain, left brain, analytical. If you like, this may appeal to you better. So if I look at this toolpath, that blue T2 toolpath, the width of that is 174.223. What is it in inches? Is it less numbers? No. So 174.2, that just changed, 174.224. So if I draw out, come up here and get my pencil line or pencil tool, and I draw a straight line and tell it to be 174.223. Select that and tell it to be 174.223. That line is the same length as that toolpath. So if I tell that to go to the center, not there, I want to go to the top of that. There we go, right there. That line is now around the perimeter of that. So if I were to select that star and then that line I just created and go to the grid array, and I want it to be 174.223. It won't let me do 223. Let's see here. I want to do distance from center to center. Actually, no, let's go back here. Come on. Star, line, grid array. Zoom out so I can see what it's not wanting to do what I want to do here. Come on. Now, this did this to me earlier, Chris. I got that. Did I do circular array instead of grid array? I might have. Grid array. Zoom out. Do columns. Yeah. It's wanting to do circular array on me or something. If I've got something turned off that I need to have turned on. This was doing something strange earlier today when I tried to do this. Oh, you know what? Duh. Her. You don't need to hit shift and hit that line. I need a drink. I was trying to do circular array instructions using the grid array. That fixes things. RC, baby. All right. So forget holding shift and select the line. Just select your star and go into the grid array. And I'm going to turn it off so you don't see it first. And if I start telling this, how many copies I want, I can do all that. But say, all right, once I've gone past that line, if I tell it, I actually only need that 174.22, it brings those in and it creates the equal spacing, to 174.223. That's even bigger. Till I come back in here and say 174.22. I've still got room. Because what I'm looking for is I want to get these, and you can just keep increasing it. But as you say, it keeps going out beyond where your limits are. Well, tell it I want it to be within those constraints. You can also reduce your X spacing there and just start increasing your columns. And then tell it 174.22. Oop, I did a fat finger. 174.223. See, that's still not quite enough going over to that end piece, so I can get another. And that's closer. And now I can use the same technique I did a minute ago. If I'm liking that size and that spacing, and actually, you know what? That's a 2 millimeter spacing between them, between the edges. And that's the difference. Here I went with padding between edges. So from that edge to that edge is 2.2 or 2 millimeters. If I was doing it distance from center to center, then it's going to change that distance to 6 mil because it's from the center of that star to the center of this one is 6.2. So I was doing padding between edges to get a 2 millimeter spacing between them. And if I zoom out, I can get one more in here, there, 29. And tell it, okay. Move that up so I can say okay. I don't want to group results. And I don't need to select the results either. So I can say okay. So now I'm going to grab that one star and put that star back at the end of that line or on that corner. Then you can select them all, distribute with even space between them horizontally. Oh, Control Z. What did you just do? Did I not get them all? Make sure they're all ungrouped. They're all ungrouped. Oh, you know what? I got the line in there. So hold shift and deselect that line. There we go. And now distribute them with even space between them. So now I got those spaced out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all those for a second. Control D, duplicate them, and rotate them by hitting my greater than. And now I'm going to bring it over here. And now what I want to do is I'm going to put the center, and here I'm going to grab that line, rotate that line, and then grab it, and I'm going to align it to the right of that rectangle. Now that I've got that line there, I can grab those stars I just rotated, hold shift and align it to the center of that line. And that puts it right down through there. Now you'll see these stars have the stars pointed up. These stars are pointed out. And that's what I'm looking for right now. Now, if I did that a minute ago with a 2 millimeter spacing between the two pieces. So if I don't need this line anymore, I'll get rid of that. I'm going to select this row of stars right here, and I'm going to come over here to my padding, and I've got a value of 2 millimeters. I got a value of 2 in there, and I'm on my work area because padding doesn't always want to work when you're off the work area. And I'm going to use my padding to bump this up right here. I'm going to dock my objects upward. If you've not used your docking tools, you've got 4 docking tools right here. Dock left, dock right, dock up, and dock down. And if you look at them, you see these little squiggly lines on the end of that square. and the squiggly lines are what's showing the motion. So that's docking up. If I tell it to dock, in fact, I got to get that. So, and the fact that it's not all on the work area, I think was a problem. If I get that on the work area, I select that and tell it to dock up. And maybe it's already there. Let's take it down. Or, you know what? The toolpath might be messing with it. Tell it to dock up or any of these toolpaths. I tell it to dock up. Yeah, it won't move. So I'm going to turn off, go to my cuts and layers, and I'm going to turn off the toolpaths because those were interfering. Now, if I select that and tell it to dock upwards with a padding of 2 mil, it should make that jump up there, and it ain't doing it. Huh. That should, in fact, let's just for giggles. I know what I'll do. Let's see if it doesn't want to work with the group. I want to ungroup it all. And then I'm trying to dock it straight up. There we go. So that docked them up 2 mil. It didn't move these down here though. I don't know why. Dock those up. See, so there must be something screwy about those, and that was what was causing my issue. I don't know why that's not working. Head scratcher. It may be I turned that toolpath back on and it took it right to that toolpath. But if I turn that off, it shouldn't be seeing it. In fact, let's try doing just this one and dock it up. No, it won't move that. I'm going to, for giggles, just to see if this is the issue, I'm going to delete these toolpaths and now try and dock these up. Well, one moved. And that one won't move. Don't know why it's doing that. The docking is a new one I haven't seen. And y'all, I've told my patrons this. Most everybody knows I've had multiple strokes and I do really, really good. But when it comes to reading, I know how to read, but I cannot read and comprehend what I'm looking at. That docking is a new one I haven't seen happen before. Okay, so you've not, and that's weird. And I have run into it where they will the toolpaths will if you're trying to dock something across another shape, it won't do it. You have to make sure that those were turned off, and it usually will dock on up. But the fact that it's interfering with it, even with them turned off, and now the whole that's a new one on me. I haven't seen that. Do you have a double copy of it? No, because if it was copied, it wouldn't be in fill mode. All right, so let's go back and put our toolpaths back. There, and turn everything melts back on. And there's always another way. If you find yourself in a situation like that and your tools are not working, group them together, move them on up. And in fact, you can grab that and put it right against there. Now you made them touch. And now that you made them touch and you've been fighting with it, quit fighting with it. If no one cooperate, don't just make them touch. Set your move tab, which is in your move tabs, your control, go to your gears, go to units and grids. And these are your move increments for control arrow, or shift arrow. My shift arrow is 1 millimeter. So now that I've got those set in place and they're grouped, I'm holding shift and arrow down 1, 2. And that fixed that. Now those are now, spaced out the same way. So I can see I don't want those grouped anymore. All of those should be ungrouped. Yep, they are. All right. That star is the one closest to the corner. I'll grab that, put it on the corner. And then select all of them on that path to there and do that same spacing between them. Done. I can get rid of all of these. Select all the stars, hold control, and from right to left, selecting all the toolpaths. Then I can group the stars because that deselected. Well, that should have I wasn't holding control. Didn't work. Undo. I select everything, then hold control and deselect the toolpath. There we go. Holding control. Now group. Copy. Control D. Flip it one way, flip it the other way. And now I've got both sides. You've got your two overlapping stars down here, and that's fine. You just need to figure out which one you want to keep. And since my top stars are pointing up, I'm going to keep the star at the bottom that's pointing down. So that's this one right here. So I'm going to select that. Got to ungroup it. Select that one and delete it. Oh, that was the wrong one. That was the group. Control Z. Put it in wireframe mode. There we go. That single one's the one I won't. Get rid of that. Come over here. And that single one's the one up. No, it's grouped. So let's ungroup it. Select that single one and get rid of that. So now I've got that. Now I can take all of those, deselect my toolpath, group them all, and now do offsets because I made them small enough that I can do, and should be able to do corner offsets and keep my stars nice and tight outward. There we go. Too much, 4 mil. One's too much, do a 0.5. And now that was not quite there. Let's do a 0.7. So that's going to stay inside my routed area. I'm good. Say okay. And put everything on a fill mode again. Go back to window and field smooth. Oh, did I delete the original like a dummy? Yep. Turn off delete original. And see, I screw up all the time. Control Z, undo is your best friend. There we go. So there's another take on it. Now, how did I get all that funky going on? Well, those are grouped, so let's ungroup it. I got one star there. I'm going to select that star. Let's put it in line mode. Well, we'll go to wireframe mode. Window, wireframe, so we can see stuff. And I'm going to do grid array. And let's give it, what was 36 and 28. All right, now that I'm in grid array and I've got them all set up like that and I'm close to that corner over there, come down here to random orientation. Random orientation. Right now you see how they're all pointed nice and straight up. Random orientation will cause them to be discombobulated. And now they're randomly selected and rotated around different directions. Because the star is not symmetrical, you're not going to have a straight line across the top of those stars. Depending on how they're rotated, this one might be sticking up further than this one, and so on and so forth. And that's fine if that's the look you're going for here. In fact, we can kind of see a little bit of a rhythm, a little bit of a wave motion going on across there. And if you didn't like that, if you come down here to random orientation number, as you change this number, it will change the orientation in which they're rotated. So you can, if you were seeing a rhythm or a pattern to it and you didn't like that, you can keep just select them until you found something that looked like it was more, I don't know, that didn't have any kind of symmetry or whatever to it. And then just say, okay, go ahead and group the results. Well, actually, no, don't group them. Say, okay. And we'll do the same thing again. We're just going to move that star to move that star to the corner. Select them all, distribute them with even spaces between them here. And if you wanted to save it, in fact, we're going to try this again and see because it should work. If I grab all those, let's duplicate them, Control D, duplicate, then group them, then use the greater sign, greater than, to rotate them clockwise. And then I come down here and put them on that toolpath. I'm just eyeballing where they go right now. And I've got my docking or my padding set to 2. I should be able to dock that straight up. Well, let's turn off the toolpaths because I know they will interfere if they're visible. But with them turned off, I should be able to select that group and dock it straight up. And it will not do it. It will not do it. But if I ungroup them, what happens, all of them should dock on top of one another 2 millimeters away. So if I ungroup and then tell it dock up, well, now see, part of it, that's crazy. Part of it moves and the other part don't. Those are not, they're not grouped. And is it still showing them? Yeah, see, it's not even showing them as a group because it's all dashes. It's not dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, dash. That's funky. I've not run into that before, ladies and germs. Why that half moved and this didn't. And if I select this now until it dock up, it won't move. They're not grouped. If I move that one, it won't move. Yeah, they're not grouped. Strange. No, it's not knowing the size of the frame, John, because I haven't given it any dimensions. That should I'm just going to drag it up. I'll do the same thing I did a minute ago. I'll drag it up here, touch it, hit shift, and down at 2 millimeters. Done. And that's kind of sort of close, but it's not quite where I want it to be. We'll put it in the center of that one, like that. That's mo better. Turn that back on. Turn that one back on. And we'll grab all of those and delete them. Move that one down to the corner. And then select from corner to corner and distribute them vertically with spaces between them. Select all of it. Select all of it. Hold Control and deselect the toolpaths. Group the stars. Control D. Duplicate them. Mirror them once. Mirror them twice. Then I'll need to ungroup them so I can grab one of the stars and delete it on the corner. Now I've got that random orientation going on. I can select all of it again, zoom in nice and tight, hold Control and drag from right to left, deselect those, group the stars back together, and then do an offset. And now I've got that. I'm within my area. Say okay. Put all that back in. or smooth field. And that's how I got that first image you seen there. So, wow. I've gone through a lot, and didn't even pay any attention. And I don't know if Steve's still here or not, but I was really honored to have Steve and Clack both join in on last Saturday's stream. Last Saturday, I got thrown a curveball by a troll, and threw me off my game. More than I even like to give him credit for, because I know who it was. It was a fake account, and I know who it was. But it threw me for a loop, and having those guys here helped me get my head straight. But there was we did a whole lot of conversing. We had a good time. It was, but there wasn't a whole lot of information, design, and exchange shared techniques. But when I'm doing this solo, part of me would like to have somebody who is, even if they didn't want to be on camera, they were just back there going, "Hey, Chris said this. Hey, Chris said that." Because now if I'm going to go scroll all the way back up here and find my first comment where I've marked and then I got to go find all the questions and comments. And I'm like, "Here, Chris. Okay, I seen that. Is there a release date for version 2? I'm guessing they're probably going to say something about that in the expo. Guessing that, and yeah, LBX, and hopefully Mill Mage. That would be cool if they have a release for both of those. What's wrong with golf, Homer? Nothing's wrong with golf if you need to go to sleep. That's one of the best things you can do on a Sunday afternoon. If you need to take a nap, go get in the recliner and turn golf on, and you'll be out. Engagement? No, we're not getting engaged, brother. I'm never getting engaged again, but it lets me know we're being engaged in the conversation. And hey, you know what? John brings up a good point. Don't forget to hit that like button, guys, especially if you put in 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 things you've learned already. If you haven't hit that like button, take your right hand, put it behind your head, and give yourself a Gibbs slap. Jethro Leroy Gibbs from NCIS. A Gibbs slap is either for disapproval or approval. But smack yourself in the back of the head if you haven't hit the like button yet, especially if you've had multiple things you've learned already in this stream. And I'm still going to show you how to do those random sizes, because I'm only an hour 15. I'm okay going 2 hours. If you're still here, great. I'm going to show you how to do those random sizes on a rectangle, and then how to even do that craziness around the star without having to do that on all the sides. The rope border, that's something I can show too. I want to do the pieces that I've got here, and then if people are still interested and want to see that rope border, I can show you that too. That was Jack asking about that. Let's see here. Let's see. I don't need to turn it off. I just go find the next one. Find the next questions, comments. Here we go. That docking in the new one, he said, maybe we addressed that. Is there a line under the stars? Nope. Don't know why it was doing what it was doing. Docking needs a clear path. We'll dock to the first vector it finds. Yeah, when you're trying to dock, if it's overlapping, if any one of that part of the design is overlapping another part, it's going to stop as soon as it hits something. That's why I turned off the tool paths. Simply turning them off usually prevents that from happening. If the two pieces you're trying to dock are on the same layer and nothing else is on the screen, you can usually dock that layer. But that one was strange, where it was only docking half of that line of stars. That was really strange. Led Zepp says try ungrouping. I did ungroup them and then regroup them to dock. Yeah, I didn't try regrouping, but even when they were ungrouped, what should have happened, Led, is when they were ungrouped and I told them to dock up, they should have all docked If there was 12 of them, all 12 of them should have moved up within 2 millimeters of the next one and stacked right on top of one another because they weren't grouped. They should have all moved together, and they didn't do that. Don't know why. Jack, my neighbor, don't know. Let's see. Here we go with the reading again. Don't go to the new What's a Burger line Raptor. I don't. Yeah, I don't. That is, folks, as I said, Jack's my neighbor. And we're in Gaston County, North Carolina. It's redneck central. It's redneck capital of the world. And these rednecks, I don't care if it's a Whataburger. I don't care if it's one of the fanciest restaurants you can think of. These rednecks in this town will absolutely kill the restaurant for they just opened. He said they're wrapped around for 2 blocks of the line waiting to get in there. And they'll do that for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then they don't ever go back again. They'll slam it and then let it go out of business. It's crazy. I don't never go to a new restaurant in this town ever. Is it? No, we're talking about that. It's not the frame size. No, with it turned off, it should not have been acknowledged in the toolpath. Check. I looked at that. It says check. And those artifacts are something that's funky. But the fact that I was able to select just those and you could see where those squares were at, I knew there wasn't an artifact there. And Jack, yes, I'll be happy to look at that. I don't want to do that. Cancel that. Go away. Mark my spot. All right, so mark my spot in the conversation. Now, let's look at this basic rectangular shape with the varying sizes on it. This is actually pretty cool. Let's see, switch. Let's get rid of all of this. And this is what I want to look at. I'm going to bring this down here. And this is pretty cool. Might have been in the stars. I hadn't run into that, but usually the artifact I see is usually the only time it pops up is down that home position. But we've already gone past that, and I've already deleted it all, so we're good. This is kind of cool. This is this is symmetrical asymmetry. That sounds weird, but it's true. This is symmetrical asymmetry. How do I do that? This is cool. Let's come over here. I'm not going to worry about showing you the how to get the right size. We're just going to put a toolpath in here and just make it a 5x7 toolpath and not worry about the borders and the sizes and all that. 5x7. All right. I'm going to draw a circle over here. I'm going to go right to the corner and I'm holding shift and control so it brings out a perfect circle. Now that I've got that on there, let's select it. It is metric. Let's make it 8 mil. Now, I went to the corner of that toolpath. Need a drink. I went to the corner of that toolpath and I held shift and control to draw out a perfectly symmetrical circle anchored on the corner of that toolpath. Now, a lot of you know how to do that. And then when you decide you need to change its dimensions and you do that, it moves on you. You're like, let me show you. If you're not familiar with anchor points, if you are, great, but I'm trying to recognize that everybody's not been with us along every step of the journey. And they might be saying, well, wait a minute, mine don't do that. Mine won't work like that. Well, this is why. Let's undo this. And in fact, I'm going to make it even more drastic of a change so you can really see it. Let's go to 4 mil. All right, so that's a 4 millimeter circle, and you can see the center of that circle is right on the corner. And if I want to change that circle from a 4 millimeter circle to an 8 millimeter circle and keep it on that right there, if I come up here and say metric and go to 8, well, look, it moved out of the way. You're like, golly, I went to the trouble of creating it down there. Well, the reason I did that is I changed my anchor point right here. If I go back to undo, with that anchor point being right in the middle, or sorry, in the bottom left corner, when I change its size, this part of the circle is where it's going to be anchored. And as it increases its size, it's going to move up and away from that anchor point. It's going to move up and away as I start increasing its size. If I change it and the anchor point was in that top right, it's going to anchor this top right part of the circle. And as I move it, it starts moving away from that center point. So recognizing especially if you've designed your piece in place, go back there. You've designed it right where you want it. Make sure if you're going to change it, make sure your anchor point is in the very middle so that you can increase its size and it will stay in place. So I want it to be 8 mil. All right, so I've got that 8 millimeter piece. Now, if I want to have these varying in size, this is 7 inches. I'm going to create a tool path on a different line. And I'm going to tell that piece to be 7 inches long. And then tell it to go to the center and the top of that tool path. And is that not 7 inches? No, I changed that somehow. Way to go, stupid. All right, make that 7 inches. Oh, because I got the aspect ratio locked. That's why, dummy. There we go. 7 inches. 7 inches. And now let's put that back on the corner. There. All right. So if I want this to vary in size across that tool path, let's go ahead and put it on our engraved line so you can see it nice. I'm going to hold shift and select that T1 toolpath, and I'm going to go to arrange and a copy along path. Arrange and copy along path. Now, before I do that, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to zoom in here. And this is where I was telling you a minute ago why it's important to make sure your piece is positioned correctly, because not all of the toolpaths are live. They won't let you move your image around while you're in some of the tools. So right now, if I select this circle and hold shift and select that toolpath and go to arrange and copy along path, I'm trying to zoom out and move, and I can't do anything. This is not a live screen. I can't do anything with it. I cannot see the end of that line. So I got to cancel, scroll out to where I can see the end of that piece, and then go to arrange, copy along path. Now, if I move that out of my way, now I can see everything. And I'm going to increase my numbers to 20. Those are all the same size, but right here, scale copies. Turn that on. And if this is 8 millimeters and I want the smallest one over here to be 4 millimeters or half of that, I'm going to scale it to 50%. And that's going to go from 8 to 4. As you turn scale copies on, as you can change the percentage to whatever you want it to be. If you want it really drastic, and go down to 25%. But I think that's a little bit too much. So I'm gonna stay with 50% and say okay. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to draw another straight line. Select it and tell it to be on T1 and 5 inches. and then align it to the center and the right of the original toolpath. This was an 8mm circle. I'm going to duplicate that and bring it down here to the bottom. Grab it, put it on the corner. There we go. And now I'm going to hold shift and select that T1 toolpath, arrange, copy a long path. How many is this I'm going to take? I used 20 a minute ago, but that's going to be too many. If I even scale my copies and at 50%, that's too many copies. And I can't zoom in to see it any better. So I'm trying to eyeball it from here and look for what is equal distance is what I had up there. And that looks pretty close. That's I think that one's too much. That one's too little. I can change and tell it my actual space between copies here, but I'm instead of even messing with it, if that looks pretty close, I'm going to say okay. I've got the duplicate up here now, so I can select one of those and delete it. And then if I want to make sure I've got everything exactly spaced, tell it to do that horizontal. Oh, now that's funky. Did I not get? Select all of those, distribute them vertically with even space between them. And that's not supposed to happen. I got some funky stuff going on in Lightburn today. That's not supposed to happen. They're not grouped. Don't want them to be grouped. Oh, you know what? That's not funky. I need to turn off that line that I've got on there. That T1 toolpath. Let's turn that off. And let's see what happens now. There we go. When I was drawing the selector tool around it, I was encompassing that T1 toolpath, and that was throwing it a curveball. So now those are distributed evenly with space in between them. I'll select all of these, but I've got that T1 toolpath turned off. So if I distribute them horizontally, that should work there. And now that I've got that created, for the heck of it, let's just turn off that toolpath. Select all of those, group them, Control D, duplicate it, flip it, and flip it. That gives me a duplicate on each corner. Ungroup it. Ungroup it. Select one on the corner, delete it. Select one on the other corner, delete it. Now, those are much bigger than what I did over here because I wanted you to see that difference. But that's how you get that graduation from big to small and on opposing corners. And I really like that. And this is something that's quick and fairly easy to do. The more you do it and the better you get with it, you can do it in a matter of just a couple of seconds. So you don't need to worry about trying to create one and then save it unless you're going to create it and save it for the exact same 5x7 toolpath, like my plaques. The plaques that I've got that I sell, they're all the exact same geometrical shape. So if I wanted to create one that's going to work for that and save it as, 5x7 cedar plaque, done. I don't have to recreate it every time for that particular piece. Oh, I hit. Whatever. Jack just posted something. I was trying to undo it, and it started playing Jack stuff. All right, let's see here. Don't know what that is, Ed. Oh, oops, wrong button. Okay. Yeah, asymmetric symmetry. It's asymmetrical symmetry. Yep. Because it's perfectly symmetrical of the asymmetry on the other side. All right, let's see here. That's a bug. A toolpath should not affect the spacing even when turned off. Well, there in that case, I don't know if you. I had that stupid line of a toolpath in there that was affecting it, and it wasn't turned off. That graduation looks cool on a spiral. Looks like the shape is vanishing down a hole. Yep. And that's something that maybe version 2, Chris, is Lightburn going to have the ability to create a spiral with an easy command in version 2? I've done it, but it's not that wasn't that easy. And I don't have the ability to see the number of likes in while I'm streaming. How many likes we got right now, guys? Where are we at? Give me a number in total likes. 33 likes. Who wants to see how to do the star with the graduated pieces? 53 likes. Okay, that's better. It's better. Still not, we got 81 people still watching. Guys, hit that like button. If you Sheldon Cooper's super asymmetry. All right. If you want to see the star, how to do the asymmetry around the star to where the circles are in the middle and they taper down and get smaller as they go out on all 5 points. Several of you are saying yes. If you say we're at how many, refresh, and how many likes are we at right now? So we were at 53. How many at now right now? Somebody. How many likes? 60 likes. All right. Get it to, when it gets to 70 likes, let me know. We were at 61. So 9 more people just need to hit that like button, and we're going to show you how to do this star. This is what I'm talking about. If you didn't see it earlier. And that's pretty cool. And I'm going to show you how I did that. Nothing on the spiral yet. Okay. So Colin, if you hit your refresh button, we were up to 64. I need 6 more of you to hit the like button, and I'll show you how to do the star. And if you already hit it once, you can't hit it multiple times. 65, 5 more people. Come on, you lazy old farts. Get over there and just hit. All you got to do is just click. 67. Oh, 3 more. Come on. All right. So, like I said, if I didn't have a star already saved, I'd have to go in there and create a star. But I've already got a star saved. So, we're going to come over here. I'm going to set that out the way, and I'm going to grab a star, and I'll put it on a toolpath and turn the toolpath back on. In fact, let's turn all the toolpaths on and get rid of everything that's on the screen here that don't need to be. Go away. So that's all I got. It's a star. Let's blow that up. Now, when you're doing something like this, it would be a really good idea to design it in the size you intend to use it. Because if you're planning on doing a graduated piece like that, if you design it really, really big and it looks really, really good, and then you shrink it down, well, if you shrink it down too much, then you'll have, okay looking star. Well, let me just show you. Let's move this one out of the way. let's grab this. And we agree that that looks pretty good like that. But if I was to shrink this down, let's say right now, this is, let's lock the aspect ratio. It's 10 inches tall. Let's say I needed to get it down to where I'm only going to do something that's only 5 inches tall. Now, how big is that dot up there? Let's ungroup it. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I went to zoom in. There we go. Let's change it to metric and grab that. It's 1.4 millimeters. So at a 5-inch piece, that little bitty dot on the end of that star is less than 2 millimeters. It's, it's bigger than a ballpoint pen, but just barely. So if you want it to be something that's noticeable and you're going to make it small, then you need to design small. I say it all the time. Design small, and then when you blow it up, it's just still going to look good. But when you design big and you shrink it down, you can lose some details. Because if you actually designed it and to where it went down at a 10-inch star and it went down to a 2 millimeter dot or 3 millimeter that you wanted to keep, when you reduced it to 5 inches, that thing's going to be nil. You're not going to see it. So design small, and you can always blow it up. All right. So, and I thank you all for hitting that like button. And okay, Scott says 70 now. Great. I was going to say we weren't going to worry about it because we've got 86 of you watching. The 86 of you are still here. We're probably the first 70 that's been here the whole time, and you already hit the like. A lot of people tuned out already. So let's look here at creating this piece. I'm going to just bring it up here, bring it over here. And I'm designing big right now just so it shows up good on the screen. Like I said, if you're designing it for your piece, design it for piece, specific piece size, or design small knowing you can make it bigger. But here, I'm going to come over here. I've got my star. I'm going to grab my measurement tool. And I'm going to come up here and measure one line on that star. And I'm at 122.04 mil or 122 mil. All right. So I'm going to grab my pencil tool. Actually, you know what? Priorities. Deselect the star, select my black layer, grab the pencil tool, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw a straight line from that point to that point. And that should be 122 mil, give or take. All right. So I've got a black line there on that ray of that star. If I come and draw a circle on the end of that line, holding shift and control, draw it out. Anchor points in the middle, so I can tell it to go to 10. Now it's perfect 10. Hold shift and select that line. Copy along path. Arrange, copy along path. How many copies? We'll give it 10 and scale copies and go 50%. And you notice I started down here and it's copying along the path going up. Because if I were to have started here, hold shift and copy along path. Scale copies. It's going to invert it. For this design, and either one would probably look good, but I wanted this one to go this way. Arrange, copy along path. Give it 10 copies and scale copies at 50%. Say okay. Group those. Actually, you know what? That line's in there. In fact, that's okay. In fact, let's put this in window wireframe so we can see that. So I've got the line selected and the circles are not selected, actually. I'm going to group all of it. I'm going to grab everything on the black layer, the circles and the line, and I'm going to group it. Now, it'd be nice if when I did circular array, if it put them all right on that line, but it's not going to do that. But I've got that one created. I'm going to hold shift and select the star and go to the circular array. And I'm going to tell it to do 5 copies and rotate the object copies. If I don't rotate them, you get that. So rotate the object copies. And say, okay. I should have told it not to group them. Now they're not grouped, but this should be individual groups, and they are. So now I can go up here and grab that line. Come on. I can't grab the line. Grab the circle, bring it down here, and put it to where that overlaps on that line. Same thing down here. Grab it. Move it in tight where I can see it. And one more. Now I can grab, and you, how many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? I don't know, because there's always another way. I can select that entire piece and then hold control and deselect the toolpath, and I've got everything on there. If this wasn't over here, and the only thing is on my tool on my work bed is this, I could hold shift and left click on the layer over here, and that'll select everything on the black layer that's on the toolpath. With this star that's over here, if I hold shift and select the layer, it gets everything on that toolpath, including this over here. Then I could hold control and deselect that, and I've got only that. That's another way to do it. Or I could turn the toolpath off and select all of that and group that. There was at least 3 ways to select those 5 tangents of that star I just created. So I've got those, they're selected and they're grouped. I'm going to Control D, duplicate them, and flip them. And now I can ungroup it all. And everything's still showing group because I hit the group button like dummy. All right. If you're not aware, when items are grouped in Lightburn and you zoom in on them, you don't see dash, 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 dash. You see dot, 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 dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dot. If they're ungrouped, it's just all dashes, no dots. Well, right now, I just grouped everything. Everything is grouped. I need to ungroup everything, but I want to keep everything still selected. So let's see here. I've got everything selected right now, and if I hit ungroup, I can zoom in and look, and I can see all I've got is dashes, but everything is still selected. Now, if you had a whole bunch of things on your screen, different layers and different things, and all of it was, some of it was overlapping, and you needed to just get rid of, what I want to do is I want to get rid of those lines that are in that star. Well, everything in that star is selected right now. And I could hit group and it'll go right back together. But everything's ungrouped, but the entire piece, all those are still selected. So by holding control, I can just click on the line and deselect it. And I can drag over it. Sometimes that's easier. And by deselecting each of the lines, all of the circles are still selected. And I'm going to show you, I've got some overlapping circles where I've duplicated them. So I've got those in there. So now I can still holding control, deselect one, deselect the other, come back up here. And now I can hit group. And that groups all of them back together again. And I can just grab that, move it out of the way, and just delete. Oh, I missed a line. Just grab that, hit ungroup. It's all still selected. Hold control, deselect that line, then group it all right back together and delete. So that's how you get that. All right, we got another 20 minutes, or 15, 16, no, 14 minutes before we hit 2 hour mark. I'll show you. Let me go up here and find my last spot. Okay, I remember talking about Led Zepp's Spiral. So, and Chris was looking to see if it was available in 2.0. Question. There we go. Where is the refresh button on your browser for your web browser? Same result as moving smart. Same result as moving start by small spot, the scale of 150%. As far as reversing, yes, you could change the scale, but that's going to, the sizes wouldn't be the same. It would be, I know what you're saying, but let's look at that. Quick test. Straight line, circle. Get right here and draw out a perfect circle. Select that. Hold shift, select that. Arrange, copy along path. Let's do 10 copies and do scale copies of 50%. And that makes it go from large to small. And if we go to 150%, but now we're doing 50%, and let's see what, let's cancel that. Let's look at something first. That is, sorry, that, let's go 10 mil. So that's 10 mil and copy along path. And we'll do 8 copies so we can see it better, and scale copies to 50%. Then that's going to give me a 10 millimeter down to a 5 millimeter out here. But Chris says if we invert it and go 150, yeah, see that it does invert your change, but now we're still at 10, but this is going to be what, 100 or 15 or 20. So, okay. 15, give or take. So yeah, if you have your same origin starting point, you can go to a larger number. It will increase the way it's tapering, but it's not going to be getting smaller. So yes, that would work. But if you're wanting to make sure it's tapering down to and not any bigger than your origin size, then you need to put your origin and scale the direction you want to go. Well, and is there an easy way to connect two? Is there an easy way to connect two end nodes on an open shape other than using the line tool. There are a lot of different ways you can connect. Is there an easy way to connect two end nodes on an open shape other than using the line tool? If they do not need to be actually connected, if they're already overlapping, and Lightburn has got some funky things going on. If they're already overlapping, but yet it's still an open shape, just clicking on close path will sometimes do it, but not always. Sometimes I have to use close path. Sometimes I have to use Alt J for join. And sometimes node editing and just grabbing it and moving it back and forth and make it snap together. No one way works every single time. I don't know why that is. That's why I've got Alt J in my pocket. I've got close path in my pocket. I've never had that great a luck of close path with a line. That's an option in the edit tool, close path with a line. I typically, sometimes it works okay. And then sometimes if it's got an artifact and that happens a lot, way off, it'll draw a line from way up here, way down there and then back and does some crazy stuff. But Alt J to join or close path are usually the two things that I'll go to. And if that don't work, then I'm node editing. And I seen this a minute ago. Into branding, also delete duplicates on each edge. That and Alt D is to duplicate. Control D is duplicate. Control D, duplicate. Alt D will delete duplicate shapes. It works, but it don't always work when I'm doing this designing. If they're not perfectly, like you've seen there, those weren't exactly lined up on top of each other, then it don't recognize it as a duplicate shape. But Control D to duplicate, Alt D to delete duplicates. The 150% was an example. To keep it same would be to start at 5. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Close and join are slightly different functions. Yeah. And I guess it depends on whatever's going on in the shape, which one you have to use. And that's why one works sometimes and one don't work sometimes. All right. And just for giggles, we got 7 minutes. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this. I'll just show you how real fast, how I got that rope frame, the rectangular rope frame. Delete. Switch. If you have my military artwork, you already have and if you don't have my military artwork, if you've bought any of my designs that has the Marines logo, it has a rope design on it. And it's got all these irregular shapes in here. I'll ungroup it, grab one of these, bring it over here, grab all that, delete it. We'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it pretty good. And let's do, well, you know what? We'll do it on a line. Actually, you know what? I don't even need that line. I started to deselect it, but I don't even need that line anymore. We'll get rid of that, delete it, select all of that, do an offset. Outward offset until I get there. Say okay. Put that in field smooth. And there's a straight rope. And then I'd use all those other techniques I showed you on the other types of frames to where I could set it up to whatever length I need it to be, whatever size I need it to be. And then whenever I get around to doing the corners, if I grab all of that, let's group it, Control D, duplicate it, rotate it, and you know what? I'll do a hold shift and select that, align it to the top and the right. Then grab all of that, group that, duplicate it, and do the mirror flip. And now I need to actually ungroup that once, ungroup that once. And then where these overlap, you can do it a couple different ways. Actually, you could even just, because how many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? Only one way. No. You could, thinking of quick and the easiest way. Let's see what happens if we just, we'll bring this down to where I get it on the screen where I can see it better. If I weld all that together like that, then that gives me that. I got some funky corners going on. I could do one of two things. I could come in here and draw me out a square that would be large enough to cover that entire area. Let's go a little bit bigger. A little bigger is even fine. First, let's align it to the left and the top. And then to give it equal distance, I'm going to hold, selected that. I'm moving it 1 millimeter. 1, 1, and we'll move it again. 1, 1. There we go. And I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to select. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to, let's do that. Yeah, duplicate it and move it over here and align it to that side. And now I need to move it out 2 mil, 1, 1. I think that's all I moved. It was 2. So now I'll grab that one, duplicate it, move it to the bottom, align it to the bottom, and then move it down again 2 mil and duplicate it and send it over here to the left and then move it out 2 mil. Now I'm going to grab that one, that one, that one, and that one. Group all those and now duplicate all of them again. And then I'm going to select the ropes. That's A. Hold shift, select the squares and subtract. And then I will take and select those and do an offset inward of 1.5. Say okay. And then go back to my accents because I've already created a star and I don't want to create it every time I need it. Bring that star in here and put it right in the center of the square. Something like that. And put it around each one of the squares. So without taking the time to show you, explain step by step, because I did all of those things that I just did to create that, I have done in those previous examples of how to do those frames. And you see how quick I did that. It's not hard to do. You get comfortable with the tools in Lightburn. Which design do I have to purchase to get those funny looking ease to the rope frame? You don't have to buy anything. I don't know. You don't have to buy anything. See this is the difference between me and a lot of the folks on YouTube. They'll show you how to do a design. And they'll show you how to. They'll bring a whole lot of pre-made stuff in. So, oh yeah, I did that in 5 seconds, this and that, or whatever. But you don't have it, and you can't duplicate it because you don't have what they got. If you go to, and I'll show you. Open up a new window, new tab. You're going to go to hobowithwood.com. Hobowithwood.com. And then you're going to go to, this is the home page. This is the landing page for Hobo with Wood. This right here, veteran flag case template with artwork. This is a piece that I make for my fallen vets locally. The funeral homes will contact me with names and information, and I make these plaques. They go on the flag cases, and I give these to every single funeral home that calls me or message me, says I need one. I give them away. I ask you to do the same thing. As a laser maker in your community, it's the least you can do for our fallen soldiers. Even if they're from WW2, they didn't serve in Desert Storm or in, hey, a vet's a vet. They deserve our respect. Do this, give it to the family. So to make this easy for you to do, I give you all of this. When you download this file, what you get is, actually, you know what? I don't need to go there. I can go back to Lightburn. Delete. Open Sesame. Oh, don't want to do that. Go to open. Go to my e-commerce, and this is the flag case. Is it flag? Oh, phooey. File, recent projects. Flag case plaque. Don't want to save anything. When you download that free file, here's a template that I used to do these for the flag cases. You get all 6 of the armed forces logos. All 6 of the armed force logos come in that file, and I give those to you. And I'm happy to give those to you with the pretense that you're going to use them to do this. And you're going to give them away. You're not going to be charging for them. Now that you've got the artwork, you can incorporate it into different designs like this. This is my veterans bench. This is for the Air Force, and it's U.S. veterans. You've got the artwork you can incorporate into other designs, but do this. We got a pretty good community, laser engraving community, where we generally people are trying to help each other and share and educate. Give back to the community too, man, especially the vets. Do that. Give it. I make these out of my scrap material. Now I will use, this is hardwood. I'm not making this out of brass or the Baltic birch. I'll buy hardwoods and make projects like this out of hardwoods. Well, I got lots of scrap of my hardwoods laying around, and that's what I make these out of. So it ain't costing me anything except my time. And they gave their time. A couple minutes on your laser time is worth it. So go over to hobowithwood.com, download that file for free. Go to the home page. It's right there, veteran flag case template. And that's what you get. And that's all 6 branches of the U.S. military: Coast Guard, Air Force, Army, Marines, Navy, and the Space Force. I don't know if we've got any Space Force vets that have fallen, but if you needed it, you got it. Okay. Thank you, Led Zepp. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I did pretty good there. I was able to throw in a little extra with that little rope thing and still hit my 2-hour mark. I have for the last 2 weeks, I've been doing some lives with my patrons to where we do this. They're actually interacting. They have the link to the studio and they can jump in and chime in and discuss, not chat, but discuss their problems and throw some ideas out there. Yeah, it'd be neat to make them out of Purple Heart. You know what? That actually would be another good logo to make. I need to do the Purple Heart insignia. Ooh, thanks, Ed. Yeah, because my stepfather, he's actually Purple Heart. I need to make the Purple Heart logo. Sure do. Sure do. Now something else for me to do. If you have Space Force, you need to do a copyright safe Starfleet one. Well, it's crazy, man. The Space Force, it is the Starfleet logo. I don't know who designed this, but they were I don't know, is it Trekkie or Trekker? I don't know. I think Trekkie is correct, I think. But switch. That's the Delta from Star Trek all day long. That is a Star Trek logo. And I've got it broken up on different layers here and that have different powers, different scan angles and stuff like that, so that whenever it engraves, and it's not going to show here, I got some funky things going on with it so that it shows up different. The Delta looks really cool once it's engraved. So anyway, National Guard, yeah, it's something I could do. It's like someone asked the other day about I forget the other one. They said Merchant Marine, and that's civil, not government, but National Guard would be. I need to look at the National Guard logo. I didn't even think about National Guard. Shame on me. But I guess the National Guard is in and of itself is separate. It's not like you got Army National Guard and Air Force. It's just National Guard. It's not like the National Guard is national. Is the National Guard a branch of one of the other services? I've got Coast Guard. I've got the Coast Guard. There's Coast Guard. And guys, the detail of my work, let's see here. We're here. All right. So there's the Marines. Let's look at the Marines. Need to do a line after fill. Say okay. And then there we go. It's in there. Semper Fidelis is in there. Depending on how small you engrave it, you may or may not see it. But I didn't leave any detail out. I mean, it's there. And this was done in Lightburn. I didn't scan it because if you tried to scan that and trace that, that ain't showing up. I've gone to the trouble to make my stuff tight. National Guard done by state. Okay. Okay. National Guard is a subset of the Army. I thought it was the Army National Guard. So I would, whenever I don't know this because I've never had a family member in the National Guard. I've got lots of friends in National Guard, but National Guard, remember, they're going to get full honors at a funeral, right? They're going to get, they'll get full honors just like a fallen vet, but wouldn't the Army National, I guess you got the Honor Guard. That's just the Honor Guard. They show up for any branch. I was just curious, how far did they go to the trouble of differentiating? Okay, well, they're National Guard, they're not Army, but regardless, if someone wanted I need to look and see what the National Guard logo looks like, and if it's something that I can do there. Fire Guard, we don't have that over here, Led. Da, 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 da. As a Vietnam vet, I have used the files purchased from you to help get donations for the VFW post I belong. Awesome. Awesome. And thank you for your service, sir. And depending on who you talk to, some people are like, I don't want to hear thank you. I don't, but I haven't served. I have a lot of family members who have served, and that's a steep price to pay. And it's I got mad respect for somebody to make a commitment like that, especially in a time of war and uneasiness that's going on. The National Guard has a symbol of the Minuteman. Oh, that would be cool, Carl. I need to look at doing that. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up because while the clouds are still broke and we don't have any rain falling, I'm gonna go out and try and cut at least front yard before it gets any more like a jungle out there. And show you this before I jump off here, because in order to see that Semper Fidelis on there really, really good, especially when it's, kind of small, you need to have the line after fill turned on, because if that's deleted and it's just in a fill mode, and you go and look at that, oh, I didn't tell it. Okay. Get rid of the line after fill, delete. Oh, I put it in fill mode now, stupid. There you go. And okay. Now preview. See how the word is incomplete? Because it's so small and the line interval is so close to the line interval, you don't see the words. So when you're doing something really, really small to get the detail in it, you have to use a sublayer and tell it to be a line after fill, and say okay, and go in there and look now, and you can see that. That's going to have the detail you need. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting that like button. And, go out to all of your other communities and groups you're in and say, you know what? Y'all need to be watching Hobo. I need to get my subscriber count up, and I need to get you guys and you hitting that like button, commenting in the streams. All that helps with the YouTube analytics. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great week.